Okay, so the third part, I think, third installment of these videos, here, sale and leaseback. And so really what we're really talking about here are really to do with entities that will um, sell an asset legally. And when I say legally, it's above board. They have actually sold the asset, typically a building or something along those lines, and then lease it back from the buyer for a period of time. So because it's a lease, and it's happening over a period, we need to recognize the right of use, if you like, sort of as well. But the argument really is that really and truly, you might have just sold off a portion of the asset. I mean, the fact that you sold off your asset for fair value and then you now lease it back for, say, half of its life, technically you should still be recognizing, if you like, half of the life of that asset, and you've only really made a sale or profit on the other half that you have truly sold. So the question here is, how do we go about the double entry for this? Right. So if the transfer, well, first of all, if the transfer is not a sale, if the transfer is not a sale, then really what we have here is that the seller continues to recognize the transferred asset and will recognize the financial liability equal to that. So, for example, imagine you had a building worth 500 million, and then you take out this loan for two. You say you've sold the asset for 200 million, and you will pay back 300 million in a number of years to buy it back. If you have this option to buy back this asset that's 500 million and keeps on increasing, by the way, to buy it back for 300 million, where we know really and truly that you just have this asset here, but you've taken out a loan of 200 and you have agreed to pay 300 million back. So this is not a sale. So we do not derecognize the asset from your statement of financial position. What we do is we just recognize the fact that you have taken out a loan and you'll be paying it back with interest, if you like, in a year or whatever. Right. But you do have scenarios where the transfer is a sale. The transfer is a sale. And if the transfer does qualify as a sale, then the seller, lessee, must measure the right of use asset as a proportion of the previous carrying amount that relates to the rights retained. So this means that the seller, lessee, will recognize a profit or loss based only on the rights transferred. So you can only recognize really profit and loss, if you like, on the rights transferred by the buyer lessor. And we keep on doing what we do. We, if you like, depreciate the asset over its lease term and do everything as normal. So I think the best thing to do is to do an example to see how we recognize this. I have an extra sheet which I can use, but I think I'll flick between the two. So let's just start from the beginning. On the 1st of January, Painting sells an item of machinery to collage for its fair value of 3. The asset had a carrying amount of 1.2. So let's do that here. So this asset had a carrying amount here of 1.2 million. And then you go along and you dispose of the asset. So let's just, it says you dispose of the asset. So if you're going to dispose of the asset, we need to credit the asset of 1.2 million and debit disposal. And it says here what you do, if I remember, is that you sell the asset for 3 million. So we have here bank of 3 million. So if you're selling for 3 million, it means you're recognizing a gain on the asset. I'll just put here gain on sale of 1.8, thank you, 1.8 million. Excellent. That's the scenario. Now, what happens next? It says here that then you enter into a contract for the right to use the asset for the next 5 years. So you're now going to sort of like rent this asset for a long period of time. So the argument is you really shouldn't be recognizing this asset, if you like, or if you like, you haven't actually fully sold, or you've only sold a portion of the asset. The question is, what portion have you not sold? Or what portion of profit can you recognize and what portion of profit can you not recognize? So the question here is that this gain on sale of 1.8, we cannot fully recognize all of it because you have sold, because you've just rehired or you've just released, taken out a long lease on it. So the question is, how do we work it out? So here we are. It says the present value of the annual lease payments is 1.9 million. So this is the present value of the annual lease payments. That's kind of the value you've gone back to take on. That's the right of use. I mean, that's the right of use amount, isn't it? At fair value. That's the right of use at fair value. So really, in effect, what they're telling you to do is to sort of say, well, listen, if the full value is 3 million, that's the full fair value, and you're now re-recognizing 1.9, that's the fraction, if you like, that you're recognizing, if you like, on your statement of financial position. So let me do it from the profit point of view. So therefore, if you're now recognizing 1.9 over 3 as a proportion, right, because that's what you're re-recognizing on your statement of financial position, you cannot recognize, if you like, 1.9 over 3 of this profit. I mean, or if you like, you can only recognize 1.1 over 3 of this profit. So let's just sort of do 1.9 over 3 times 1.8. We can't recognize that yet. So 1.9 divided by 3 is equal to that times 1.8 is equal to 1.14. So I cannot recognize 1.14, if you like, of this gain on sale right now. And what I do is, so just to sort of highlight this, the first thing I need to do is, of course, I need to recognize the right of use asset of 1.9, and here is my liability of 1.9. That holds, right? In terms of, that's what I'm going to be paying. That's the present value of that liability. But what they're telling you is that you cannot recognize 1.14 of this profit, and so what you have to do is you can see what I'm doing here. I'm debiting this gain, and I credit this the right of use asset, if you like. So in effect, I can only really recognize whatever is left here, which is the 1.8 minus 1.14. That is the profit I can recognize basically on, if you like, for the year. And so I can only recognize in terms of this right of use asset, I have 1.9 minus 1.4, and when you do the carry down figure here, you will get 0.76. So I need to recognize 0.76 as the right of use asset, if you like, for the year. That's the double entry. Now, from the front of this, I can look at it like this as well. I could say, well, what the question did say, if you remember, it said that recognize a proportion of the original cost, and that's the 1.9 over 3. So if you say 1.9 over 3, 1.9 divided by 3 times 1.2, you will see that you get exactly the same thing of 0.76, and that's the 0.76 there. But this way, at least you can see how the double entry worked its way to arrive at 0.76. So they're saying that, listen, if you're going to release, if you're going to rehire an asset, you need to recognize, if you like, the sort of the fair value that you're taking back over the full fair value, that's times the original cost, and recognize that here, and that's a 0.76. But you can also think about it from a profit point of view. That can't be recognized, so you debit the gain on sale and credit return the right of use asset, and you still arrive at 0.76. So I think this is a little bit of the chapter you want to be happy with, especially for some of the objective, one or at least one or two of the objective questions. So just to work through this and get comfortable. And you can see we just treat the liability here as normal. We keep just accruing as we go along. But in terms of the recognition of the right of use, we have to drop that value to 0.76 because it's still recognized. Okay, great stuff. And that is the end of that chapter on leases. Right, great stuff.